Anathema today. It's been a while since we had a Tales of the Vinyls in the world of YouTube. You're supposed to put something up once a week. I think this is like 2 weeks ago. So now I'm off all the algorithms, and this whole series is doomed to die. And I'll just align to the boo-hoo crowd, and I'm certainly in the boo-hoo crowd mosh pit of Anathema. Anathema is the band we're going to be talking about today, and I'm actually really happy, a little bit excited actually, because we won't be talking much about inspiration. I sort of noticed I was supposed to talk about another album today, but I noticed that, man, there were lots of brown albums. And I thought it was a good idea to break off this brown trend. I have a lot more albums that are brown to speak about, and we'll talk about a blue album. It's Anathema, and it's we're here because we're here. It's going to be a little bit of a few stories today, which are pretty fun. It's about our encounter with Meshuggah, and how the crew of Meshuggah viewed Sterbhaus quite a few years back. So I'll be speaking a lot. Now, I mean, the whole series is about me speaking, isn't it? But hopefully you find it a little bit interesting. Just to recap, I mean, this whole series, Tales of the Vinyls, is about albums that relates to Sterbhaus. And to start off with the Anathema story, like I said, we aren't really inspired at all by this band. We have basically zero in common when it comes to musical direction. Maybe the use of e-bow. I don't know if it's called a sustain pedal or something like that. You know, e-bow is a little instrument you put on the string of a guitar and you get this sustained note that sort of keeps ringing. You can just change whatever you're playing. With this hand, you don't really have to strum the note, strum the string. And we use that for a couple of songs. Anathema uses that to great lengths. That's about the only thing we have in common with Anathema. However, I've been an Anathema fan. Try saying that when you're drunk. An Anathema fan for quite a while, since I'd say it's since they released this absolute masterpiece, which is Alternative 4, released in the 90s. The golden age of weird albums, these extreme metal bands that were on different adventures. That's what all the death metal bands did back then. And Anathema was no exception. They started off here. I sort of picked them up by this time. Didn't really like it that much. Didn't like the vocals. Picky Marcus, Marcus with a lot of opinions. But man, this artwork is brilliant. I love it. It looks absolutely terrific. But it's not terrific enough for me to buy it on vinyl just because of the artwork. You probably have this as well. But for certain albums that you listen to, or you can just see the artwork, and you sort of connect that album to a certain experience or a certain point in time. And as soon as you listen to this, you can almost smell smells that you experienced when listening to this album, when experiencing these things or whatever. And this is exactly like that, because I relate this album completely to the period of 2011. And especially the summer of 2011, when we recorded this album. Angels for Breakfast and God for Lunch. I'm happy I get to show this almost every episode now. I mentioned also previously that it's on white vinyl, and I'm going to show you the white vinyl today. That's the inner sleeve. Why don't vinyls come with printed inner sleeves anymore? I think that's super sad. I think it's super pretty when they come in printed inner sleeves. And there is the white vinyl. Now, we recorded this album in Abyss Studios the summer of 2011 in May. We went up there for 3 weeks. We were super optimistic and thought we'd nail the album in 3 weeks. And I mean, we did the first demo in like, I don't remember, 3-4 days. And we also spent a lot of that time drinking. The second demo album, Hits for Dead Kids, we were there for, I don't think, not maybe a week, but not more than that. So we figured that, okay, 3 weeks should be enough to do a good job. After 3 weeks, we weren't finished. And we had to go back over, longer weekends, basically, to finish off guitars and vocals and bass. Now, what happened in between this was that Jimmy and I went to Hellfest. Hellfest had an awesome lineup featuring Mekong Delta. I wish I could spend an episode talking about Mekong Delta. It's one of my favorite bands ever, but it has no relationship to Sterbhaus, so I don't think that will happen. Now, if you watch the previous episode, I think that was episode 6 with Tales of the Vinyls, I'm talking about Bellacore and the festival Summer Breeze. And I also mentioned that, okay, I was there as a festival goer, and it was like 3 bands I was interested in. When it comes to Hellfest, there's usually a bunch of bands, and this year was no exception. Anathema played Summer Breeze in 2010. Their show was okay. It wasn't like super duper, but when they played Hellfest 2011, it was brilliant. And they had just released We're Here Because We're Here. I hadn't heard the album. I don't know really why. I guess I was just lazy. But I remember clearly standing in the back of the crowd with Jimmy, just, having a beer like you do on great festivals and watching this show. And they opened with the 2 first songs on this album. And from there on, I was like, what the hell? I think I really have to check this one out. Now, enough about Anathema's music, and let's get on with the storytelling, which is more related to Meshuggah in this case. And actually, to tell this story straight, we have to go back to 2009, where we played Metal Town Festival. I'm talking about that in a previous episode as well. We were there, and that festival was in Gothenburg, and we were hanging out backstage, and on the very last night, this very last evening, you sort of empty the bar backstage, and all the bands drink themselves stupid. So did we, and I think that maybe some members of Meshuggah did the same thing, because we were chatting a bit, and sort of, we were the newcomers, and you get to meet a lot of bands. That's always exciting. And so you had a few drinks, and you laughed and all this stuff. You take a whiz, and I remember whizzing with Meshuggah, which I thought was kind of funny. This story is starting to get a little bit messy already. What's important here is the visit to Hellfest and our meeting with Meshuggah and more Meshuggah's crew, actually. We weren't really buddies with Meshuggah. We played a few gigs in Stockholm with a band called Scarpon, and they were buddies with Meshuggah. So these guys from this band, they went to see their buddies playing, and on that same bill, they got shitty old Sterbhaus a couple of times. We were not the best band at all, so I don't think they liked us. Anyway, that's not really important. What is important, and the purpose why I'm telling this in the first place, is that when Jimmy and I went off the plane in France, going to the festival, we were going to pick up our luggage, and there was Meshuggah standing waiting for their luggage. And I could sort of notice that they were basically eyeing us out and thinking that they probably recognized us. But I thought, well, what the heck? I'll go up and chat a little bit. But I remember the vocalist, he was a little bit skeptic. And just seconds after that, their crew came up to us and basically asked, like, aren't you that joke band from Stockholm? And that is the whole point of this story. We were in the middle of recording this album that was supposed to end this whole notion about us being a joke band. Of course, we weren't finished with the albums, but come on, we heard how this sounded, and we were like, yeah, finally, Sterbhaus starts for real.
There's a funny little story. It don't really have to be boring. See, there's a wolf, three pigs, and a god of oil in the pot. It's the day of Captain Bible.
I think Jimmy got a little bit pissed off at that. I sort of just felt like, okay, we were the joke band up until then. But, you know, when you're in the middle of reinventing yourself and it takes a lot of time, it can be pretty frustrating knowing that you have this stuff that you want to unleash upon the world. But no, you're still going to be the joke band from Stockholm. So yeah, this is kind of partly what I think about when I hear and see this album. Now, the second story is far more related to this album because it's about us listening to the album. Wow, lo and behold, we're listening to the albums I'm talking about. And that's actually just a couple of weeks after this. Like I mentioned, we were in the middle of recording the album, and we had to go back recording over like Saturdays and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and go home again. And we had to do this for like 4 or 5 weekends. It was basically just Jimmy and I. We went up there and recorded vocals and bass and guitars. And it was also a little bit tedious. I mean, it was kind of nice to have breaks and stuff like that, but you wanted to get finished with the album. You wanted it done. And I remember being there for like the last weekend we were recording. It was Sunday evening. We checked everything off and we felt like, man, I think the album is done. So we said farewell to the studio, which is in Dalarna. I don't know how to say that in English. I don't know what it's the valleys. And it's kind of true because Dalarna is a region in the middle of Sweden, I'd say, with fantastic nature. And you don't quite get the large mountains yet, but there are a lot of valleys and smaller mountains. It's beautiful. And the people are lovely in Dalarna. We tend to end up in Dalarna every now and then. Falun is in Dalarna, where we recorded the drums for next Akin to Chaos, our new album. Anyway, the studio biz is in Dalarna. We finished the album, we got in our car, and I put this album on because I had bought it after we went to Hellfest. And I distinctly remember, you know, this is one of those moments that means quite a lot. And when I hear the album, I was transported back to this moment when the sun was setting, the sky was red, and Jimmy and I were going in our car and we listened to this album from beginning to end, and we didn't utter one single word during that time. It was just complete exhaustion, and it was the perfect soundtrack. And as the last note rang out, Jimmy said, "What an absolutely awesome album."